It's the McShay Show presented by FanDuel. It's our time. It's officially NFL draft season, and you can get in on all the action with FanDuel. FanDuel has lots of ways to bet on the draft, like pick position, team to draft a player, exact order, top 5 and 10 picks, and so much more. When you win, you get paid instantly. FanDuel always has exclusive offers. The app is safe, secure, and easy to use, so download FanDuel Sportsbook app today and make every moment more during the NFL Draft. The Ringer is committed to responsible gaming. Please visit rg-help.com to learn more about the resources and helplines available. And listen to the end of the episode for additional details. Must be 21 and older and present in select states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Bonus show, Muench. Bonus show. Just when you thought you couldn't get enough of me, right? I know. Listen, I know I'm told not to appreciate the audience. We do appreciate the support. We've gotten so many questions over the course of the last 6 months in this show. Here we are just 6 days out of the NFL draft, right? I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, we've got to have a show. We've got to have a show, a mailbag show. And that's what we're calling the Draft Mailbag Special. We're doing it today, answering all of your questions. There's no rundown. There's no show script. There's no agenda. There's no offensive lineman Muench needs to talk about, although I'm sure we'll get into it. But we're 6 days out from the NFL draft. Muench, you good?
I'm good.
Tickle me some sweet music there, Tuck. It was described to me by Tucker, our trusted man of everything, producer, director. I mean, we've got so many talented and really fun people to work with here in the Ringer. But Tucker described, I don't know. We're very fortunate people, right? Tucker described it as an overwhelming response when we asked. I sent out an X post, Instagram, and also in the newsletter, the McShay Report. Thank you for subscribing. If you don't, please just Google it quickly, the McShay Report. Subscribe for free if you want. We got this special promo running, Sprint to the Podium. I actually thought it should have been Sprint past the podium, but no one listens to me, understandably so. Sprint past the podium because it's not just for this draft. It's through the month of May. The end of May, you can get, hey, there you go, sprint past the podium. Don't stop at Big L and the big bear hugs on the stage. Keep going. $1, folks. It's $1. All right, $1 through the month of May. It's my final big board. It's not just the top 100, which I'm hoping to win that competition again on the Huddle Report. We'll turn that thing in on time. We got the final big board for the top 300. Are you going to turn one in, Muench?
Yeah, of course I will.
I love it. All my latest buzz through the draft, right? We've got winners, and they call it winners and losers. Winners and like, hey, we get some work still to do. Breakdown after the draft. And the way too early 2026 mock draft, which I actually put a little bit of work. You saw I sent you a text starting the board a little bit. Plus, I'm in the midst. Dan, another unbelievably talented and wonderful human being that we get to work with here, Dan Comer. I'm in the midst, Muench, of my Holland's Opus. We started it as like, yeah, let's answer some questions. We'll throw together a mailbag. We got so many damn questions, great questions. And I can't, you know me, when I start going, I'm like this, I can't stop. It's my Holland's Opus. We get the AFC mailbag coming out Friday morning, the NFC mailbag coming out Saturday morning. And these answers it's like everything I have. I'm finally emptying the bag before I get on that plane Sunday, head out to LA with Muench. Sitting in the big chair, aren't you, big boy? Yeah, I upgraded your ass.
How does that happen?
First class to LA for Muench. And we get going on draft week there. And just a quick reminder, I know I'm not supposed to do all this. Everyone gets so annoyed. But please join us. I want 100,000. That's my goal. I want 100,000 viewers on YouTube and Spotify.
Aim high, man.
Maybe 200,000, but we'll start with 100,000. We're live streaming from there. We've got the great show that's going to be a blast with Russillo on Saturday from noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday from Russillo's house. absolutely going to torch that place, turn it upside down. Okay.
Give us a quick update of where are we on what's the 40 status? Where are we at?
I talked to him the other day with Daniel Jeremiah. He didn't say no. He's worried. He's worried about injury. Okay. Understandably. Jeremiah, DJ proposed that we should run it in the sand. He lives like, of course, for solo, bachelor pad in Manhattan Beach.
Right.
He lives like, I don't know, like a 7-iron from the beach. He thinks we should run it in the sand because he wants to give Russillo an excuse. We're doing it on the Strand there, or we're going to do it up on one of the streets in Manhattan Beach. I want to run the 40. He didn't say no, and he was pissed, and I knew I would piss him off because I went on with Bill Simmons. And we started talking about 6 seconds as the over-under. That got him. I actually think he's going to be like a 5-1, 5-2 is what I told him. But he also mentioned the meat stick.
That's pretty good.
He mentioned that he's got a squat bar out there too. And maybe we could do the 225 bench press reps. So we'll see what we can get out of Russillo. But that's Saturday, the first night of the draft. We're live streaming. Let's get 100,000 people. I don't care. Put ESPN, NFL Network on the side. Get your iPad out. Get your third screen. Make it your primary screen. We're going to have a blast covering the entire draft. We're going to start 1 hour earlier. So I believe the draft starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be on at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to tell you everything I'm hearing. I'm talking to GMs, talking to scouts, coaches around the league. We're going to give you all that information, what we're hearing, what we think the potential moves could be. Then we're done with that first night. We get the second round, and then we're going to do a review show after the first 3 rounds of what teams have accomplished. Nice big review show for you to have Saturday morning as you get up and you're ready for the draft. Then come visit us at Russillo's house on Saturday. All right, that's it for the pitches. That's it for the stories. But if you want my Holland's Opus, the mailbag, which is much beyond, I'm answering, Muench, just so you know, we got so many, overwhelming response. That's what Tucker tells me, overwhelming. And I see it on my X feed. I ask for questions, which is wonderful. Thank you. That's why we're here today. An additional show this week. We got so many questions that we decided, all right, let's do a show and let's kind of make it more player specific, unique questions. These questions are awesome, man. I don't know if you had a second to preview them. I tried on purpose. I want it to be a natural response. I've got a sense of where we're going. I have not done any preparation for the show. Okay. But we got so many of them that there were enough to fill a mailbag for each team. We got questions, multiple questions for all 32 markets, okay? So if team-specific stuff, we'll get into some of it here, but the very specific team stuff, I'll have in that Holland's Opus called the mailbag in the McShay report. Today, we're going to answer these questions that were sent in. So here we go. Are you ready? First question comes in from the McShay report subscriber. We appreciate you, Justin, and everyone else who subscribes.
Let's go, Justin.
When you look back at all the time you've been covering the draft, what are the common threads for the teams that consistently perform the best? Is there an organizational and process model that sticks out, or are there a few ways to do it that can work well? There are obviously multiple ways, and there's no one answer. I go back.
You got to stay true to yourself. You have to stay true to yourself, but go ahead.
Yeah. So much of it is identifying players for your scheme, and honest to goodness, if you don't have a quarterback, none of it matters. None of it matters. I talked to a GM recently, Muench, had a really good open conversation about his drafting career as a longtime GM in the NFL. And we talked about the situation that the Browns are in and the Giants are in and the Saints are in. And he was talking about the one time that he took a chance, let's just say, on a certain quarterback where he knew deep down in his core that if it was any other position, that player would have been taken in the second round or wherever, but took a hack because you got to take swings at this thing. And he said when he looks back at his career, it's one of the mistakes he made, like up there near the top, maybe at the top. Okay. And so and that's not like breaking news, right? But just to hear it from someone who sat in that chair, the advice that would be given. And then I also looked this thing up too. Well, we can get into it later. But quarterback, it starts there. how are you going to land your quarterback? And if you identify that if you and your head coach and your offensive coordinator are in lockstep on a guy, whatever it takes, go get him. Okay. That's what I would say for starters. Then once you've got your quarterback, and I've preached this for a while now, I've done a study on a lot of the top organizations, from the Ravens to the Green Bay Packers, who have always had a quarterback. It is in my lifetime, dating back to Brett Favre, to the Kansas City Chiefs, to the Buffalo Bills, like the Philadelphia Eagles, right? All the organizations that are consistently winning Super Bowls and or in the playoffs. Like, it's just, you close your eyes and think of it. When they get their quarterback, it's if you go through like draft, I use drafthistory.com, right? It's the quickest, best resource to go. You can look up the history of the NFL draft by team, by position, by year, by school, all those things. If you go and look and you study by team of those organizations, once they've identified they've got their guy, it's remarkable. The trend of immediately flipping to the defensive side of the ball. Typically with defensive linemen and cornerbacks early in drafts, okay? And it makes sense because you talk to from Bill Polian with his days with the Colts. I had so many conversations. Dwight Freeney and the pass rushers that they brought in under the 1.6 second mark. I can still hear these conversations in my head. They got to run under 1.6. We need guys on the turf that can run fast. We need closers. We talked to Howie Roseman, 2-time Super Bowl winning general manager for the Philadelphia Eagles. What did he say to us, Muench? If you're going to score a lot of points, you need what? Closers.
Yeah.
Remember the conversation?
You got me on the spot, man.
No, I know. You need closers. And that's why every year it's like, well, there's Howie again. Everyone like focuses on the Georgia thing. How about focus on the fact that it's like they keep drafting defensive linemen in the first 3 rounds? It's like, where are they going to play these guys? Well, all of a sudden, Milton Williams comes up and he's gone. So now plug in the next guy.
Yeah.
So that, to answer your question, Justin, for me, is one of the trends and themes that I've studied, and I believe it. I truly believe, because the quarterback can make up for the sins of 10 other guys on the offensive side. He can't do much for you defensively outside of field position, right?
Right.
What else?
Look, I love this. I love the strategy, and you're right about the strategy. You still got to find the right players, right? And I think if you look at an organization like Baltimore, which I think is a good organization to study, you look at the continuity of that organization and how they developed their scouts, how, DeCosta came up under Ozzie, they hired within, it was a smooth transition.
They pay their scouts too.
Yeah, they take care of them. And they ask a lot, by the way. It's not just a free paycheck. You earn it. But when you're in that building, everyone's on the same page of what they think is going to be a good Baltimore Raven. What is how someone's going to fill a need or play a role on their roster. And that's invaluable. There's a lot of turnover in the league, and it drives me nuts because I feel like some of these front offices don't get a chance to really establish their program. There's no consistency, there's no continuity, and then you're bringing someone else in and you're starting all over again. When coaches and scouts and front office personnel and and owners are all on the same page and they're all rowing in the same direction, I can't tell you how much that can do for an organization. It's so important. And when you're turning over as much as you are, whatever. And again, it doesn't have to be the same approach, and it doesn't have to be you don't have to value the same positions the same way, but just have everyone on the same page, everyone believing, and then having the understanding and the will to adjust and tweak your approach without abandoning it. So if there's a new trend developing, or if you've learned that, we used to love players from this conference, or we thought this size receiver or this, and you're in the game is evolving, you evolve with the game without totally abandoning what your personality is, what your identity is.
2 other things when it comes to drafting specifically that I think are fairly, I don't want to say obvious, but I've grown an appreciation for. And as I get older, my patience has improved. We're still working on it, baby. 48 years in, we're still working on the patience.
It's getting better.
But the organizations that make the biggest mistakes are the impatient ones. And the organizations, if you watch, how many times did Ozzie Newsome and has Eric DeCosta sat there at pick 26, 27, 28, 30, right? And a guy that we all believed was going to be drafted at like 15, 17 lands right in their lap. Patience.
Howie too. They both do that. Howie did that too. Yeah.
Howie's Howie's got ants in his pants.
I know. Yeah.
He'll move up to move. He'll move up to move down to move up, but he'll wind up. He outthinks you. I wouldn't want to trade with Howie because when I'm done with the deal with Howie, I think, oh, I got the best of him, or that's a fair value trade, and then I come to realize like 2 weeks later, oh, shit, he got me. Like he does a great job with that, but that plays into my second point. We're all human. Every scouting department messes up, and it's not necessarily the evaluation of the player. Oftentimes, I tell this story because it sticks with me almost 20 years later, Muench, sitting there with Marty Schottenheimer on the ESPN set. I was doing .com like 20 years ago, okay? And he said, Todd, I'm telling you, he's like, you could have the best eye for talent in the world. The hardest part of this whole deal is when you give a human being, it doesn't matter what profession, you give a human being more money, more free time, and more fame than that person has ever had before. It's a deadly combination, and it's almost impossible to predict. And so, my point in all of that is mistakes will be made, and it probably isn't because you were wrong on the talent level, because the arm strength wasn't good enough or the 40 wasn't fast enough. It's because you were wrong on the person. So more is better. Quantity over quality, typically, unless we're dealing with a quarterback or a very specific thing for a very specific team at that time. Quantity of picks is better. And that's why I look at this year. I don't have my chart.
That's why teams value them so much, right?
Yes. And that's why, and you hear
like, why do you care about a second or third round pick? You
hear about really these important trades for or like fifth and sixth rounds. Because all you got to do is hit on one of those guys and get a starter. And now you've increased the odds of that being a winning draft. I look at teams right now, like Atlanta and Arizona with 5 and 6 respectively. Minnesota only with 4 picks in the entire draft. I'm talking Washington, 5 picks. Those are teams, if they're smart and get the opportunity, you might hear their name, whether it's in the first night or or early in the second night of the draft, moving back. On the flip side, I'm just going down the list alphabetically. Baltimore, 11 picks. Buffalo, 10 picks. Cleveland and Dallas have 10 picks. Jacksonville, 10 picks. Chargers, 10 picks. Miami, 10 picks. They need it. San Fran, 11 picks. Need them. Seattle, 10 picks. John Schneider's trying to, rekindle the old flame. Go back to his scouting days. So those are the organizations I'm fascinated to see what they do in this year's draft. And it may not be packaging all those picks to go up and get one guy. It may just be they stick home, get 11, 10 guys, and 5 of them work out. And that's a great draft. 3 starters. I was told early in my career, 3 starters from a given draft, 3 good, solid starters keeps your roster replenished. 4 is a great draft. Anything beyond is outrageous. So, all right. What you think about, you're like, all this work, all these private planes and flights and Senior Bowl and East-West Shrine and Hula Bowl and Combine and private workouts and pro day workouts and all this stuff, all this money, all these resources. And if I can I do it all to get 3 to 5 starters from a draft class. It's wild. All right, next question. Matt, another premium McShay Report subscriber. We appreciate you, Matt, and everyone else. Why is Mason Graham falling out of the running at number 4 when he's still considered a blue chip and possibly a top 3 player in the draft? Muench, take it.
Why is he falling out? Do you feel like that's not happening?
Oh, Matt's asking.
I could see why. We'll go into why.
I think the question probably is, I don't want to speak for you, Matt, but I think the question's more, we've talked about him as a top 3 player, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden New England at 4 is going to take Will Campbell, let's say, if that's how it plays out. Why is he going to wind up at 5? I don't know. It feels like splitting hairs a little bit, but go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's look at it this way. I think you'll talk about need a little bit. I'll let you do that. Let's look at the 2 defensive tackles that last went in the top 5. Mm-hmm. I think this is right. Marcel Darius was a 2011. and Quinton Williams was in 2019. They were both the 3rd overall picks in their drafts. Both of them were 300 plus pounds.
Those are the last. When you rip off information like that, Mitch, put more emphasis on it. Look at you. Those are the last.
I always get nervous that I've missed a guy.
Those are the last
two top five
interior. Wow.
Yeah.
And what years were those?
And 2019, 2011, I believe.
Holy
Darius,
smokes,
2011.
I did not know that.
Both Bama boys. Both guys who played at Alabama.
That's wild.
And both were 300 plus pounds. Both of them run sub 5-second 40s. Both of them had longer arms than Mason Graham. Like, look, if you're sitting there and you're doing a commercial for the draft lead up and you've asked for the guy who's the 3rd player on the board and it's a defensive tackle, and Mason Graham walks in, and we've seen him, we saw him at the combine. You're like, who's this guy? You're not thinking that, who's this dude? Now, why he's the 3rd best player?
You get the same vibe looking at him as I got looking at Brock Bowers a year ago when he was standing next to Gronk in that picture. Yeah.
And he may, and I'm not saying he will fall, but that may be why, if you're looking at it. So we're talking about a position that doesn't traditionally go that early. And we're talking about guys like Ndamukong Suh was another top 5 pick. I mean, these are, when you look at the guys who've gone in the top 5, they look different. They are different kinds of athletes. And Mason Graham isn't necessarily a guy that tests that well. He didn't run at the combine. He doesn't have great length. He's sub 300 pounds. But don't make the mistake. I get doing it based on need and if you value a player a little bit higher. I get all of those things. But I feel really confident that Mason Graham's going to be a really good pro. A really good pro.
Yeah. His tape was a thing of beauty, man.
Yeah.
The hand usage, the leverage, former wrestler, just knows the angles, the instincts, the awareness. I loved his tape. I can
2 years in a row too, by the way. 2023 and 2024, both outstanding.
Yes.
He didn't have not a lot of bad tape out there.
I feel like we don't say that enough about players. When you're stacking years, that says something to me. And I just look at James Gladstone, GM of and we said this the other day, but it's worth repeating. He was an integral part of what the Rams did, working under Les Snead. Les made the final decisions, but he was an integral part of that process with the Rams, and they drafted 2 high impact interior defensive linemen that had shorter arms. Most recently, Braden Fisk, 32-inch arms. And just prior to that, our former Richmond Spider, who defected to Wake Forest for a year before getting drafted, I think in the 3rd round, was it? Kobe Turner with 31-inch arms. So what you're giving me a look?
No, I was trying to think about what round it was. 3rd sounds right.
Okay. So he would be, based off his experiences, he might be more likely than, say, like a John Dorsey ain't drafting and I know he's out of the league and he's not with Jacksonville anymore. But if John Dorsey were there, like Mason Graham ain't the pick. He's a measurables, length, thick, all that stuff. So it can sometimes just come down to who's making that call. Doug on X. Appreciate the follow. Muench, it's you good, Muench. You good. Muench, Muench, is his handle on X, and mine's McShay 13. Doug on X asks, can you explain what 31 this ties in perfectly. Can you explain what 31-inch arms on an O lineman or D lineman means? What's the specific physical advantage to having longer arms at those positions? Mitch, this is right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, 31 inches is, I'm going to check my average. I have the sheet that I keep for every position of what average lengths and measurables are for every position. And we'll get into this a little bit, but 31-inch arms would be, that's tough for an offensive lineman. 32-inch arms for an offensive lineman. We're talking about a center.
Yeah.
Right. But that's that's the lower end of it. For defensive linemen, I don't think it's quite as important. But again, for defensive tackle, you're looking around 33 and an eighth. I think you can get away with shorter arms at that position a little bit more.
And that's a 5-year combine average, right?
Right. So to say, why is it important? What's the advantage that it gives? So we'll go through the offensive line first. I think that you really want to create separation in the pass game, you can get in, you can be quick enough to get into position, and you can be with a really balanced stance and all of that stuff. And I look at feet first when I'm watching defensive linemen and offensive linemen, but then the next thing I want to know is who's winning the hand-to-hand combat. And the length is a real asset when it comes to hand-to-hand combat. You see guys like a Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M come screaming off the corner and all of a sudden transition from speed to power, and he shoots that long arm on you. I don't care who you are. It's real tough to sit and anchor against that. But if you could shoot your punch and you can time that punch up and kind of disrupt that momentum, you're in a lot better position. Again, this matters more for offensive tackles than guards, but it still matters for guards and centers. Mm-hmm. And then the flip side is true for defensive linemen, right? It's, again, who's getting that momentum, who's landing the first punch, and it gives them a significant advantage. If you're a guy coming off the edge and you have those long arms to shoot and start driving an offensive tackle, and then you can get off the block late or long arm or all of those things, it's a real advantage for you. Now, I will say this. There are plenty of guys that have long arms to play offensive tackle and have no idea how to use them. Mm-hmm. They don't time their punch well. They're late with their punch. They're wide with their punch. It's not a, oh, he checks this box. It's, does he use it to his advantage? And that's true about every trait for every football player. If you're quick, do you use it to your advantage, or are you not instinctive enough to use that? So there's all those things that come into play. I also think scheme comes into account. If you're a defensive lineman, you're playing in a 2-gap scheme and you need to press blockers off your frame, then length is probably a little bit more important than if you're playing in an aggressive 1-gap scheme. And that's why Fisk is so good with those short arms, is he's by you before you can block him. Like you can talk about not having length. He just doesn't, it's not part of his game. He doesn't care. And that's great that, you take that into account when you're evaluating a player.
I notice it sometimes with shorter armed tackles, and I think everything you just said is beautiful. That sums it up really well. Shorter armed offensive tackles have a tendency to be overly eager to get into. They're not as patient, and they're not as patient because it's like the little rascal nephew who's, the uncle with the long arms is kind of holding by the head, like they want to get into the body, and they're like, so, and what is that? What's the downfall to that? What's the vulnerability? It's you can lose balance. Anytime you're over asserting, and then all of a sudden it can throw off your balance. When you're off balance, when you get to that league with those grown ass men, like, good luck.
Yeah, and if you do it once, you're going to see it 5 times the next game. You're going to see it 10 times the next game. It's not, you got to fix the holes in your game, man, or you won't last in that league.
Yeah. So, all right, good stuff. Next question. That was from Doug. This is from Jake. Jake, another premium McShay Report subscriber. Okay. Here's a question. Excluding Abdul Carter. Oh, this is going to be fun. Can you build the best possible edge rusher / DE using the skill sets of basically all of the strength, hands, quickness, off the snap, bend, shedding blockers, all that stuff of the players in this draft? Let's have some fun with this. I'll give it a stab, Muench, of what I would build. Okay. And you can poke holes, or you can take it further, or you can add some traits. Let me pull this up. I want the length of Mykel Williams. 6'5", 260, 34 3/8 inch arms. That's longer than a lot of the tackles he's going to go up against. Okay. So you talk about winning that leverage game and getting into pads. I want his length. First step speed, like that. To me, let's just go first step and speed, like that explosive burst. No one ever had a better. I remember like watching and thinking he was getting the pitch count tip to him, or the pitch tip to him. Von Miller.
Yes.
I remember watching the Y, because like when you study the tape, you
without question,
the all 22, and then you get the tight, right? And I remember that Oklahoma game, for some reason that pops in my head. A&M versus Oklahoma. How long ago was that? I still remember that game because I remember watching the tight, which is from behind, and I'm like, my goodness, he's up in their pads fast. And then I flipped it over to the wide, and it was like, how do I explain it? It was like he knew the snap count, and I started watching the center to see if he was tipped. And it's actually Sam Bradford, and they were doing the clap thing, and I'm like, he's got a beat on it. And then Bradford did Second clap, and he still was like, I'm like, that son of a bitch. He was,
and then it would reduce surface area. He was unbelievable.
But he was different than everyone. There is no Von Miller in this class, but the closest thing too, in terms of that first step explosion and speed to finish with it, is James Pierce.
Yeah, I was good. Okay. I thought you were going to go Walker, but I'm with you on Pierce.
I considered Walker. I'll get to Walker in a second. Okay. But Pierce, you got to remember, Pierce ran a 4.47. I mean, you're happy with that.
Yeah, that's different. You're right. Yeah.
Okay. But it's also the, then I went with redirect, that outside in move, or this is important too. Not just like an outside in or an inside out move right before you get to the tackle. Also all right, I got in the backfield, but the spot has changed. The quarterback's off his spot. Now I gotta instead of the old Titanic that me and Spielman used to talk about. There's some of those guys. And interestingly enough, Mike Green, I'll get to him in a second, from Marshall, phenomenal pass rusher. I'll get to his strengths in a second. He leaves some sacks on the field. He's so explosive. He's so quick, but he's got a little redirect slowness. So like he'll get back there. He'll get you off the spot. And I know he led the nation in sacks, but that's going to be an issue for his game. So that's the redirect. And I think some of the bend too, with kind of like the rip, dip and rip. Violent hands. I went with Mike Green. That dude in his frame is so damn powerful, and the snap in his hands. So I got frame and length of Michael, first steps burst and speed, the get off and the speed of Pierce, the redirect of Jalen, the violent hands of Mike Green, the strong ass leg drive of Shamar Stewart. That dude will, you just said the 34 and 3/8 inch arms, picture arm up in the chest of the offensive lineman, flat back in that ass right into the quarterback. Flat back.
He gets you off balance and just throws you upfield. I mean, it's fun to watch.
Where he struggles,
fun to block.
Where he struggles is the instincts and awareness, and that's why for instincts and awareness, I'm going with Ezeraku. Donovan Ezeraku.
I love this. I would do the same thing. I hate agreeing with you as much as I do. I mean, polishing game plan, that kid's got it. I mean, he always has a plan. He always knows how to set guys up. It seems like he's thinking almost 2 or 3 snaps ahead instead of just within that one play.
I told you I was talking to DJ and Russillo the other day. We did a show. It was actually a lot of fun. He made a good point, and I absolutely agree with him. The special traits at edge are really important to find. And I just
DJ or Russillo?
No, definitely not Russillo.
I was going to say, Daniel Jeremiah. That's going to be interesting.
He was saying, like, he goes, I wonder in his conversations with people in the league too, Ezeraku, we all believe he's going to get to the point where he's really successful. Like, we all believe in him, the motor, the instincts, the awareness, the hand usage. He's got a good, like, I wouldn't even call it like the bend and torso flexibility as much as it is like, it doesn't waste a lot of motion with him, and he's just a technician, and he never quits. But like Liatu last year out of UCLA, the supremely talented technicians, not the supremely gifted technicians, the guys who are awesome with their hands and the plan and all that stuff. Sometimes it takes them a little while, like Trey Hendrickson, he was saying, to emerge, because you get to the league and it's like, oh shoot, now I got 35-inch arms at left tackle. I've got guys who can handle power and speed. So I got to hone my craft. And that's what he was saying, that some teams he talked to were kind of struggling with. I love them, but is he where in the first round do I want to take a guy that may not be ready to offer me a whole lot as a rookie? So I thought that was interesting. All right, next question. Premium McShay Report subscriber, Chad. Thank you for the content and deep dives. As a former DB, this is going to be a DB-centric question. Appreciate that. When you're evaluating corners, what are you looking for to determine if someone is a nickel slot or an outside corner? Also, although people like Jahdae Barron and Jacob Parrish, be best used at nickel, I think. They have the chops to match up on the outside. That's his opinion. I understand the big wide receiver versus small guy argument, but I also used to give bigger wide receivers. Oh, I like this. I see you, Chad. I understand the big wide receiver versus small guy argument, but I used to give bigger wide receivers problems in press coverage. I am 5'9". Thank you as always. I love that, Chad. Go ahead.
I want to see Chad's tape. Send it in.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yes, Chad.
So, do you remember a corner named Dre Bly? He's just under 5'10". Yeah, played for the Rams. Really good player. I went down to Charlotte for a couple of years and did a radio draft show down there. And he was there one year. He probably doesn't remember this conversation, but he's there. He was shade under 5'10". He was a real physical corner. He was a guy that can match up on the outside, even though he wasn't taller. And he pulled me over. And he was like, hey, listen, you're talking about a lot of these guys being nickel guys. You're not selling out my smaller guys. Because, he took it personally. That was, and some players do. Like Steve Smith, when you looked at him as the wide receiver, another Carolina guy, the Panthers, he was a small receiver, but he won so many contested catches downfield. It didn't matter. He played on the outside. That being said, here's what I'm looking for. When you're looking for a nickel, you have specific challenges, right? You're going up against a slot receiver that has a two-way go. And you have to be a little bit more fluid and you have to be quicker. I also think, interestingly enough, you have to be very good against the run because you're playing close to the line of scrimmage. And a lot of teams are running out of those spread sets, so you better be tough and you better be willing to play the run. On the outside, you don't necessarily have to be bigger, but you have to be strong. You have to be good enough to reroute receivers. You have to be competitive enough to compete for 50-50 balls. Those are kind of the things. You got to be able to run with guys downfield. Those are the kind of things that I'm looking for in an outside corner. So to simplify it, a nickel would be quicker, more fluid, still tough. An outside corner would be someone who can reroute guys and could run maybe a little bit better downfield.
Yeah, it is interesting. I want to go in a couple places with this. There's not many guys, and I'm just kind of looking through it now. There's not many guys that aren't 5'11", and most of the really good ones are 6 foot or taller. Okay, at outside corner in the NFL.
Right.
You think about it, like the Christian Gonzalez, Joey Porter Jr., Slay, Surtain, Snead, Diggs, Woolen, all taller, longer guys.
Jalen Ramsey in his prime.
Yeah, I mean, you go down the list, right? And it's because of the length. I've always said, listen, not all positions it matters, like the 40 times, the workouts, all that stuff. No position is driven more by a combination of two measurables than corner is driven by length and speed. That 40 time combined with the arm length. And even when you get a guy like Denzel Ward, who's a little undersized, he's got 31 and a half inch arms, which is, when you get to that 30-inch range or sub 30, and I think that's part of the, the question mark. I look at one of my favorite players in the entire draft, Jahdae Barron, Texas corner, 29 and 5/8 inches. Okay. So it's a deal. It's a thing. But I also want to say this, Chad, my 5'9" corner. I am on a kick right now. Where did I put it? I am on an absolute kick.
The thing about Barron, though, is he plays the ball so well for a guy with shorter arms.
Here we go. Say it again. I'm sorry. His ability to displace. It's like when I'm talking to Marissa, she says, well, how is it I ask a question? And for 2 minutes there's silence. And then all of a sudden you're like, I know I have issues. I want you to hear this list, Chad, and everybody else. Okay. Mike Sanristil, Cooper DeJean, Drew Phillips, Tyke Smith, Tarheeb Still, Garrett Williams, Brian Branch. Okay. Dax Hill, Jalen Petrie. All of these guys. They're all nickels, okay? Cooper DeJean is different. He's bigger than most of the guys. All of these guys didn't have the measurables, whether it's the arm length, the speed for Jeanty, whatever it was that got them to that nickel spot. Sanders still second round 2024. Jeanty second round 2024. Phillips third round 2024. Tyke Smith third round 2024. Tarheeb Still fifth round 2024. That's all from last year. 2023, Garrett Williams, second round. Brian Branch, second round. Byron Murphy, third round. All 2023. 2022, the last 3 drafts. Dax Hill, 31st overall pick. Jalen Petrie, second round. All of those guys, 31st pick, but everyone else, second or third or fourth or fifth round draft pick. They're all absolute difference makers in the NFL, and were gotten on the cheap. And that's why I have to wonder, because nickel is a starter. We don't have a Mike and a Sam and a Will.
100%. That's why inside linebackers aren't valued the same way as they were before, because you're replacing one with that nickel. And that's your base.
So why is it that my nickel guy, all these guys are like interceptions in the playoffs, advance to the next round, interceptions in Super Bowls? They're not impact players?
No.
They're not it's a starting position, and you're covering up these wide receivers that become so important in today's game. And that's why when I see a Jahdae Barron, when I see a Maxwell Hairston, I'm like, sure, pass on them. I don't know.
I think you can make
that. Chad, I am in your corner. Go.
Of course you are. It's other positions that are the same way, though. Why do you get Rob Gronkowski in the second round, or George Kittle in the fifth round? You know what I mean, though. There's those guys. There's difference makers that go later on because of the position. Right now, and we'll see if this changes, because I agree with you. It's going in that way. Right now, they're just not valued the same way. And I think a GM might respond to you by saying, yeah, because you can get Byron Murphy, which is insane to me, in the third round. I mean, that's just crazy to me that you can get that kind of a player in the third round. So when you're talking about it, I think GMs look at it, well, that's the market, man. You can get great running backs in the fifth round. You get great running backs in the third round. Why do I have to take one early? That's probably the way they look at it. I get it. The value doesn't match up with what you get on Sundays. Not even close. I mean, just not.
All right. Brian on X. Again, follow. Would you please, like, while you're listening or watch this, pick up your phone and would you follow Muench, please? You good Muench. We changed it from
follow.
No, like the value follow. YOUGOODMUENCH. I want to get him up 10,000. I want 100,000 for the live stream first night of the draft on YouTube and Spotify. Minimum. How many followers you got right now, Muench?
Like 7,200.
What the? If we're not at 20,000 followers, if we're not, you do have to be a little better.
I have to be a lot
Muench
better.
is going to make a commitment right now to you, and they're going to make a commitment to you by following. It's like the dating game. I'm making a match. You guys start to follow Muench. Muench should have built it, and you would come. But why don't you come, and then Muench will build it? At you good Muench. Brian on X, can you compare contrast Jeanty with Bijan Robinson, the last 2 blue chip running backs? Despite being 2 different styles of running back, they were both considered top running back prospects. Why?
Talk to me about this one. This one I struggle with a little bit. How different are their styles?
Not terribly different. They're one shorter than the other. I think to me, personally,
I wish Brian had kind of elaborated what he was seeing, because maybe Brian's seeing something that we didn't see.
I don't think
Bijan I saw that question.
has quite the contact balance.
Okay.
I think Bijan. What did Bijan run? I don't know if he's fast. I don't know. He's like the longer stride. Maybe a little bit more accomplished, like running routes and catching the ball. Like
that was definitely a thing. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, he is. He absolutely, coming out of college, he was more accomplished as a route running, catching the ball in the open field a little bit more. Whereas I view like Alvin Kamara absolutely can do that stuff, but you look at Alvin's production, it reminds me a lot. It's a lot of screens.
Yeah, get him in the ball in space.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let him kind of go from 0 to 60.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, but I do think it's fascinating. Here I want to make this point. The devaluation of the running back position. Talent trumps trends every time, bro.
Mm-hmm. Here we
2017, I told you, we're in the thick of it. It's passing game, spreads, all these different concepts. College is trickling up, all that stuff. Still had 30 running backs taken, and we had 2 guys in the top 10 that year. So when, excuse me, when Jeanty, who I gave this comparison the other day, in case you weren't watching, and Brian, we appreciate your question. I said, like, I was trying to, his run style reminds me of a lot, maybe just because they're kind of shorter, compact. LaDainian Tomlinson, the run style, the combination of vision, change of direction, the quick shiftiness, low to the ground,
power,
and then also the contact balance. Yes, the power.
Yeah.
Now that to me is kind of when I if I'm trying to find one guy that I think his run style is similar to, it would be LT, LaDainian Tomlinson.
So much fun to watch.
Kamara is the comp I get. I just can't get it out of my head. I even went, I watched Jeanty and I put on some Kamara passing game, and there's just something about like the way they start, how shifty they are. And it's like easy stuff that they make into big plays. And then I told you the commitment to the games, like Herschel Walker. This guy is absolutely insane.
I love that. Keep
everyone's taking
their
everyone has taken their NIL money and they put it in Lamborghinis and all sorts of crazy fun stuff. And not good. I'm not promoting any of it. He has put it into like the cryo. I don't even know the name of this stuff, like into his nutrition, chef, in his body, and not because he wants to look good on the beach, because he wants to be the best. Okay. But 10 running in the last 10 years, there have been 6 running backs that have been drafted in the top 10. This is the last decade, only 6 running backs drafted in the top 10, which is understandable. So he will keep that number at 6, because 2015 that will get knocked off Todd Gurley, but it will remain 10 running backs in the last decade drafted in the top 10 when he's drafted to New England at 4.
Oh, here we go. Just stirring the pot. Couldn't help yourself.
There's a breeze.
Oh my God. I think fans would be super excited. I mean, they'd still be like, what are we doing at left tackle? But yeah.
You can't do that, right? Bring him in and make it like Saquon behind the Giants, Saquon behind the Eagles.
Yeah.
Speaking of Saquon, pick. Here's the list for you, Brian. And I do appreciate the question with Bijan. I don't know that we got the best answer for you, but it's more like run style. Like I said, I think more contact balance and power than Bijan. Bijan a little bit more accomplished in terms of getting out, running routes, doing things in the passing game. Bijan a little bit better in pass pro too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's definitely
but purely from a running the football standpoint, Jeanty's better.
Okay.
My opinion.
I love them both.
Bijan is the most recent, 2023. He was 8th overall to the Falcons. Saquon Barkley, 2nd overall, New York Giants in 2018. Leonard Fournette, 4th overall, Jaguars 2017. Also that year, we talked about that year. This year's is good, if not better. Hopefully, when we look back, we say it was better than 2017, because that group was awesome. That was also Kamara and a bunch of other dudes. But Leonard Fournette was 4th to the Jaguars. Christian McCaffrey's 4 picks later, 8th overall to the Carolina Panthers. Zeke Elliott, 4th overall, Dallas Cowboys 2016. And then Todd Gurley to the Rams, 10th overall in 2015. What's next? Removing Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. This is Oliver on X. Removing Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and Jackson Dart. Okay. Can you build the best possible QB with the following traits from the remaining names in the QB class? He went with decision making, arm strength, mobility, accuracy, leadership, poise in the pocket. Okay.
Yeah. Let's get in the lab. Back in the lab.
Okay. This is what I like. All right. So we're talking. Let me cross this off. We said no Cam Ward. Crossed off. No Jackson Dart. Crossed off. Shedeur Sanders. Crossed off. So now I'm going with this list. Okay, Oliver and everyone tuning in. Tyler Shuck. These are my rankings. Tyler Shuck, Louisville. Jalen Milroe, Alabama. Will Howard, Ohio State. Quinn Ewers, Texas. Riley Leonard, Notre Dame. Dylan Gabriel, Oregon. Kyle McCord, Syracuse. I'm lower on McCord than Colin Cowherd and every draft Twitter, X, Instagram sensation.
What grade do you know where you have him right now? What grade? What round?
Fourth. No, fifth. I've got him in fifth.
I'm in the fifth too. That scheme scares me.
I got a you can have him grade.
That scheme scares me. He threw the ball more than anyone else in the country, man.
And Tommy Mellott from Montana State is my 11th quarterback, and I'll get to him in a minute. Okay. I'm going to give you a couple more traits in here to hone in. Decision making. I'm going with Will Howard.
Like it?
Specifically, like that college football playoff, the way he had answers to the test. And I know Chip Kelly put him in a great position, and I know he was driving a Ferrari himself with that offense, with the weapons around him. I know that. But his decision making, I saw a guy who knew what to identified it, and that made his pre-snap process, made his post-snap decisiveness flat out freaking fun to watch. Like, there are very few times where I'm like, yes. Like sitting back with this remote in my hand, and I'm watching Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, Notre Dame, good defenses, good defensive coordinators, smart guys. And he's like,
different defenses too, man. You see a lot of different stuff from those defenses.
So I would go, and his would be almost just an ability to decipher what he's looking for. So the decision making, I'll go with him.
I go leadership.
Strength. Yeah, go leadership.
I'm going Riley Leonard, Notre Dame. I just think about like the season he had to go into Texas A&M, hostile environment. You get that win in the first game of the year, and then to lay the egg against Northern Illinois. The sky is falling, everything is crashing around you, and then you start stringing wins together. Then you get to the playoff, and everyone's like, who've they beaten? What have they done? And he puts them on their back. They make a run. I really think the Ohio State game, the national championship game, might have been his best game of the year.
That is going to get him drafted in the fourth round. I'm telling you.
He put that team. I mean, the first drive of that game, and I get it. He's running.
Add toughness to the leadership trait. If you go leadership, toughness, and leading by example, that's how you pick up your team.
And then what does he do a week later? You want a competitor? What does he do a week? I've just lost the national championship game. Some guys might want to go to their basement and hang out. He shows up at the Senior Bowl the next week and says, "How can I get better and improve my draft stock?" Yep. Give me Riley Leonard for leadership.
Totally agree. Arm strength. I'm going Tyler Shuck. The way he snaps the ball off, I'm going Tyler Shuck. Everyone tells me Quinn Ewers has the best arm. Like, Quinn Ewers throws a beautiful ball. I don't see the drive. I don't see the energy. I see it occasionally on some throws, really good, but not. Tyler Shuck, he can flip that freaking wrist, man, and he snaps it off. And the energy at the end of throws. If you're out there and you're trying to figure out what I learned early on through a lot of smart people who know the whole game, but specifically quarterback, like if you really want to figure out on the throws that are cross the field, deep out routes, those you want to figure out a guy's true arm strength. Anyone can throw a deep ball and change the trajectory a little bit. It's driving the ball that way, and you want to really hone in on the good arm strength. Watch, study, get the remote back. The energy on the ball at the end of the throw, that will tell you.
Does it dip right at the end?
Really good.
Right. Does it dip a little bit? Yeah.
Accuracy. This one's interesting.
This one's tough. I think Dylan Gabriel's in the running, but when I went back and watched him, he wasn't quite as accurate as I thought he was going to be.
Me too.
That's the
I'm
thing,
gonna give
right?
this isn't one of the traits, but I'm going to give him a best in class trait. That's release quickness.
Okay. I'm
he
cool
gets
with
the
that.
ball out quicker than any of these quarterbacks. Accuracy. Who are you going with?
Rourke, maybe? Curtis Rourke from Indiana. I mean, that's could we
I'm going with Tyler.
I mean, Shucks. Oh, so we could double up.
Oh, yeah. You can. Sorry.
Okay, I'll go Shucks.
Okay.
I thought we had to go with
I see what you mean.
We're picking a different one. Yeah.
I don't think we have to. And Oliver's not here to fight for himself. So that leaves
mobility.
Us with mobility. I mean, mobility, Jalen Milroe, not even close.
Yeah.
Although underrated is Shucks' mobility. Underrated is not underrated, but I do. It's a very different kind of mobility. But Riley Leonard will be a 4th-round draft pick because of the leadership, the toughness, what his commitment will be in the quarterback room. And you think about, okay, I'm in a position here. I'm going to bind my starters down. We got a quarter of a game to close out, 2 quarters. We get 2 games in the middle of the season. You know that he can bring that mobility to the table. Even though as a passer, he is not there and may never get there as a starter. Poise in the pocket.
My brain is screaming Jackson Dart right now, but he's not in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
I think Howard's up there.
It's not Shuck.
I think Howard's up there.
I think so too. It's not McCord.
It's not Ewers.
Ewers and McCord's versus pressure reels were challenging task to get through without writing down bad words. I'm going to add another trait.
Now he's cooking. He's in the kitchen.
The position flex, Julian Edelman, Josh Cribbs.
Oh, here we go. You just got to talk about your guy. I love it. Go for it.
Tommy Mellott, Montana State, 5'11", 3/4, 208 pounds. Option offense.
I'm going to watch him tonight, man.
On day 3 from Russillo's house, he will hear his name called, and I will be throwing popcorn in the air to piss Russillo off. All right, so where are we now? Blake on X. As a Bengals fan, we've struggled to draft impactful offensive linemen for quite some time. From your perspective, why do certain organizations have specific positions they excel at drafting while falling short at other areas? Very thoughtful question, Blake. What do you got, Mitch?
I love this question because I don't really have a great answer for it. And I think that's what makes it a great question. Guys are skilled at different things. I think you trust yourself. If you identified skill sets, I think that if you identify the way guys react in interviews, which is something we talked about, like what's the human element here? And teams have, all these psychologists or psychiatrists or whoever these people are, former Navy SEALs, they all come in and they talk about how to develop an interview to get to the heart of what you're looking for, right? So if you can do that at certain positions, because it's going to be different at each position, you do that, you evaluate skill sets, you evaluate maybe conferences that they come from, what you're looking for specifically on tape. But there's really, and also it's who's falling to you. You're kind of handcuffed by where you are picking in the drafts. It's a great question, but you're also kind of handcuffed by where you are picking in the draft and what kind of talent is available at that position. So there's a number of all these, balls in the air, all these different factors that go into whether or not you're successful picking at a certain position. But it is interesting. The Patriots can't draft under Belichick, couldn't have drafted a wide receiver if their life depended on it. It is interesting that these teams go through these ruts of not being able to find certain players. And then other teams like, Green Bay is famous for drafting receivers outside the first round. I mean, it's interesting. And I'm sure there's specific reasons for each one of those things happening. But I don't think it's one thing you can point to and say, this is why they're bad at it, or this is why they're good at it.
Doesn't help that they haven't drafted an offensive lineman. They drafted Marius Mims, who was the first round pick they've used on an offensive lineman.
Yeah, you got to throw more darts at the board, man.
Pre-Jonah Williams. And it's not just first round. I'm looking. Joe Burrow's class, first offensive lineman drafted was the 6th round. 2021, the year later. The Jackson Carman from Clemson. Jackson Carman from Clemson. But that was 2nd round. I didn't like that pick. I remember not liking it at the time. 2022, you drafted a guard in the 4th round. When you're drafting a guard in the 4th round, like you're hoping, but you're not. 2023, not an offensive lineman drafted. And then this past year, they went to Marius Mims. I don't want to go on forever in this. I do think with offensive linemen, and this will read Go ahead and read the McShay report on this. I went into a long thing about offensive linemen. I'm not pushing this off, but like it was a really thoughtful, long answer that I gave on offensive linemen. And I think to summarize it, there's only so many, and every year everyone knows it. And so guys that we have mid-second round grades, they go in the first few picks, and sometimes the first few picks of the second round, and sometimes the last few picks of the first. And guys that we think are late first. You and I both agree. Kelvin Banks, I can't fully. I'm telling you, man, there's a chance he goes 10 to the Bears, 11 to San Fran, like 13 to Miami. God only makes so many human beings. Like, think about it in your life. How many times you walk down the street, go to a restaurant, go to a bar, go out and hang out at the PTO committee, go hang out at the sports complex with your kids, whatever it is, and you see a 300-pound human being. That's 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". It's 300 pounds. I have the good fortune of getting to hang out with Muench all the time. He's no longer around 300 pounds. He never hit 300 pounds. But my point is, unless you've played football at a high level or you work in this business, you're not coming across many of those humans. Why do I ask you this? I ask you this because, okay, then from that pool of people, when occasionally maybe a bouncer at a club you've come by, or a friend of a friend at the softball league, we get that he's 6'3.5", I think, 310 pounds. How many of those guys are hungry? I don't know many 300 plus pound human beings who are hungry. And I don't mean appetite. I mean, they got to 300 plus pounds because they like aren't the most driven human beings a lot of times. So now that pool of human beings declines. Then I've got to take hungry, competitive guys that are 300 pounds because they want to be and have worked to be. And then I got to find guys that have an unbelievable balance of violence, strength, nimble footwork, and the secret behind these offensive linemen that no one likes to talk about. They're the second smartest people in the offensive
room. Right.
You let me slip that in behind quarterbacks.
It's just true. They're probably the first, but that's fine.
There's just not many it's a small pool. And so every draft class, we look at 5-6 guys and we're like, those are the guys. And that's why I stare at Ariante Ursary from Minnesota. I'm like, I get it. He's not a complete product yet, but he's 6'6", 330 pounds. You're on a 501, so that can play into it with offensive linemen and interior defensive linemen. But with offensive linemen, they come off the board so damn fast that you find yourself reaching.
Mm-hmm.
Players that I have lower on the board than a lot of other position players, but I know if I don't get them here, I'll see you in 2026.
Yeah, it's the premium positions, right? I mean, to simplify it, it's like saying, why doesn't my team draft Jaden Daniels or Drake May? It's like, well, because you weren't picking second or third the year those guys came out. Like, you have to go get them. And that's oversimplifying it because offensive linemen don't go that fast. But it's the same church, different pew, right?
Yeah. Kyle on X. What does Brock Bowers do so well that current draft prospects like Loveland and Warren can't do? What do they need to improve to get to his level? And is it even a possibility that they can? How far ahead of them was Bowers as a draft prospect?
Pretty far, I guess. I mean, we had this discussion. I don't want to get into this because you're going to tell me they're not elite tight ends, and we did all this before. I think Brock Bowers he wasn't used the same way, but every once in a while you would see with him with the ball in his hands, he was as good as Tyler Warren, but more explosive with the ball in his hands. And Colson Loveland's really good at separating. Brock Bowers is that much better at separating. It's not that they don't have what he has. It's just that they're not at the same level as him at what he does. And those are the two things that really jump out to me. Is one, he separates like no other tight end I think I've evaluated. Brock Bowers does, and he is outrageously good with the ball in his hands. A little bit different than the way Warren does it. Warren's a little more power, where Bowers is more explosive.
Warren's in the Gronk category. Loveland's in the Bowers Kelsey category. So it's hard to compare and contrast with Warren. With Bowers and Loveland, you can. And I agree with everything you've said. I do want to say this. Underutilized in terms of how he was used. And I don't mean just like they didn't have a good quarterback this past year. I mean, there's more in his tank in terms of what he can do in the NFL if deployed with routes, more routes down the field, all that. Same with Mason Taylor.
No one's talking about that enough, by the way. I mean, Colston Loveland, same thing with Taylor. I mean, that's
Mason
what I love
Taylor,
about
everything
Arroyo
was a drag route. It was like underneath stuff, crossing.
H-back release into the flat. It was, same.
Simple
time.
Stuff.
Yes.
So I'm excited to see both of those guys blossom in the NFL. I also think it's worth mentioning Loveland, I look it up and I'll have it for draft night. He either just turned 21 or he's turning 21 in the next month or so. He's a pup still.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's going to be Brock Bowers, but I am telling you right now, I will be shocked. If he stays healthy like all these guys, and he's had some stuff. That's the big thing with Bowers. Can he stay healthy? But I will be shocked. He turned 21 last week. Thank you, Dan. I knew it was something recent. I just looked that up. Just turned 21 last week, Colston Loveland. I will be shocked if he's not one of the top 5-7 impact pass catching tight ends in the NFL. I think that highly of him. And I'm also hearing, like, if Warren goes 7, Loveland could go 10 to Chicago.
Yeah,
and
there's some Chicago fans mad at you.
Good.
Chicago fans don't want the tight end, man.
Okay, good.
I'd be ecstatic if I were to get one of those two.
Call me in October.
Right. Exactly.
When your young quarterback who went through all the troubles he did last year now has a coach that can cook up some schemes in the lab and utilize those two tight ends. And now we can be in 12 personnel. And now we're a headache. Okay? Get out of here, Bears fans. I'm just playing. No, I get it. I understand. It's
those cold winters, man.
But I'll tell you who will be pissed off. Colts fans.
Yeah, there'll be a 14. All of a sudden they thought they were getting one of them.
Yep. Marie. Thanks, Marie. I appreciate you subscribing. We don't have many females. It's not because of Muench's looks, I can tell you that.
Here we go.
That beard. I see you, big boy. Which team do you think is most likely to trade up into the first round for a quarterback? There are 3 teams that I think are legitimately flying around the country in private jets with owners and general managers and head coaches and offensive coordinators and quarterback coaches right now. And they're creating scripts and they're figuring out who the receivers are going to be. And they're sending these quarterbacks, not named Cam Ward, installs, and they're testing their brain and they're taking them out to dinner, and then they're having them come. Then they've already had them come to the facility, and it's a circus unlike anything I've ever seen in the NFL draft. 10 to 12 days out that it kind of started, and now here we are on the 18th, 6 days before the draft, and they're still flying around. That pilot for the Giants, man. He hasn't been home. He's got 5 days. He's not going to see his family because the Giants got to get one last look. They already saw Dart. Then it was Boulder for Shador. From Boulder, it's Tuscaloosa for Milroe. From Tuscaloosa, it's Louisville.
Who are the other two? Who are the other two teams? Let's go. I know.
So the Browns at 33, who have also had privates and workouts with all these guys. The Giants at 34 and the Saints at 40. And it's all going to be fascinating to see because I don't think a second quarterback goes in the top 10. I think we get to pick 10. And now it's like the phones are going to be buzzing, trying to figure out if we are a Shador team, which I think those 2 teams will be Cleveland and the Giants. Where do I have to move up to get them? And not only ahead of Pittsburgh at 21, the fuck are the Giants going to do? How far do I have to go up? Fuck are the Browns going to do? How far do we have to go? So that's going to be fascinating. And then the Jackson Dart thing may start at 24, but it may be earlier. I don't know. And I think New Orleans is intriguing there. So those are 3 teams. I will be actually surprised if one of those 3 teams does not move up to go get at least one of those 2 guys. And it won't surprise me at all if 2 of those teams move up. What will surprise me is if a third team moves up to pick 31 Kansas City, 32 Philly. And I think those teams would be willing to move back, trust me, because they're getting the same player the next day as they would have gotten at 31 or 32. for Jalen Milroe, that one, or Tyler Shuck, who's getting a lot of late love too. What do you think, Mitch?
The question was, who's most likely?
So
you went through the scenario.
New York Giants,
like the Giants,
the New York Giants,
like the Giants, right?
And then the Saints, and then the Browns would be my answer. Sorry.
Am I crazy for this though? Doesn't it feel like the Saints might be the one who need to make the move more than any of these other teams?
No,
it feels like the Giants. It feels like the Giants are the most likely. But I look at that Saints team and I'm thinking, with the shoulder issues with Derek Carr, what am I missing? I think they're going to have to make a move. They got to get somebody. And I think they'll end up trading back in. But again, I would agree with you. It seems like the Giants, probably because the situation with the front office and the coaching staff. You are so right about this when you say it. Hope is great for a fan base, man. Hope is great for an owner. You want to keep your job longer. Bring in a young, talented quarterback and give them something you can hang your hat on in terms of just give me a year with this kid. Wait till you see what we can do next year. And I think that maybe because of that situation with the front office and the coaching staff, that the Giants are maybe the team.
Premium subscriber to the McShay Report. Sam, I'm going to blow you off right here. I'm warning you in advance. His question is, it seems like quarterback is the only position where draft analysts discuss the value, maybe waiting a year to hopefully be in position to draft someone like Arch Manning rather than reach for QB3 in a weaker draft class. Can you share what position groups may look strong in 2026 that would make teams reconsider reaching for those positions in 2025? I have made it a rule, Sam. I will not say a word or think about. I owe it to everyone in this audience. I owe it to myself. I owe it to my family. I owe it to Tate and Alaire, my two children. I owe it to you, Muench. I owe it to Dan and Mark and Conor and Tucker and everyone else we work with. I have to be fully committed to this draft. And I sat there on the set the second night, not even the third night sometimes with Kuiper, asking me questions about next year's draft because he's already over this year. And I promised myself I would never be that guy. But I'm going to tell you this. Arch Manning, I don't think is going to be in the draft until 2027. I think this is part of a plan that the Manning family has set back, and they are in complete control. They were in complete control of Eli's career. They recognize that money's not an issue for the Mannings. Even if it was an issue for the Mannings, he's making more money than most rookie player at Texas. So the development and when he gets into the league so that he can be the next Manning to do great things in the National Football League is the most important thing to them. And they have the luxury for that to be the only thing that matters. And they are going to develop him as properly as he should be. And I think it's wonderful. And I hope we don't see him till 2027 because I want to see the best version of Arch. Final question. Coach. Oh, but I will also say this. The way too early mock draft comes out. I'll let you know the exact date. I'm not focused on it now, but it will come out shortly after this year's draft, Sam. And I will then answer all of those questions for you. Final question. Coach Bruce. I love a good coach checking in on X.
Yeah.
Love the show and all the content I get access to for the next 2 years. Oh, you doubled down, you son of a gun. I like you, Coach. You're going to let you good Muench talk this time? The McShay Report is the real deal. I love it. Muench, do you feel
we
like
got some great questions, man,
on this show?
I really do.
Good.
People say it, and Marissa said it a couple times.
My daughter, Alaire.
Right, yeah.
Alaire. My sweet daughter, Alaire. She asks me every time I'm going to do a show, would you please let Muench? I'm sorry, this is going to embarrass you. He calls you Muenchy. Everything's got to have an E at the end. Will you please let Muenchy talk today? You never let him talk, Dad. I don't think she's watched this single show, but she's heard the comments.
Your job is a lot harder than mine, man. I don't know how you do it, how you juggle where we're going to be in 2 topics and all of that stuff. So,
well, we're having fun. That's all I know. And this is a blast. And this is our appreciation back to you. Great questions. Please check that. Like, I'm not peddling it because I want subscribers and all that shit. It's not what I'm like. I'm in the midst of this Holland's Opus. I'm getting off this. I'm going to go grab a quick bite. Dan and I are going to jump back on the phone. Like, we're digging in. I'm going to have a lot of fun with these AFC and NFC mailbags. Overwhelming response to the questions is what Tucker said. And that's what we've gotten. And so we're fleshing it out. hopefully even if you didn't get your question answered, you got a lot of answers on the show. This is it, man. This is it. Like next time I see you, it's freaking draft week. It's the week.
Yeah.
Sunday night, Muench and I land. Muench is a busy man. Maybe I grab him. Maybe I can't. I'm going to unload. It's going to be a quick hitter, 25, 30 minutes. Here's what I'm hearing in the conversation. So we'll be on for an hour. Then all week long in LA, beautiful studios, waving my arms. It's time to get out of here. I love you, Muench. I love everyone who's taking the time to be a part of this thing. 100,000 people. We got to get 100K, man. Let's hit 100K together. Let's have a big first night of the draft live stream, YouTube and Spotify. And I can't wait for next week. I can't wait to get to LA. It's
exciting, man.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
See you, man.
Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.